All right, we're in part two, Sandra. You're a fireball, I tell you. So I'm loving this. We're going to get in now. We're going to dig into this War Bride stuff. So as we left off, you were telling us that your husband, who would be your husband, you were married already on the Italian side, right? Yes. So you got married in the church you were baptized in the Milano region.
Right.
He went on to finish his war service, and they took the military, went home on the military boats, I guess.
Right.
And then
with the soldiers.
And then how many war brides were there that you had your own ship?
I have no idea. Probably 1,000. I have no idea.
Can I tell you something? I think we got the better end of the deal here because these guys were from, a lot of these guys that were in that group were from the Midwest and stuff like that, I guess. You can tell being over here, we were pretty dry and boring. And so I think what they were doing is we rated Italy of its best women to kind of bring pizzazz and class to Heron. Yeah. We brought you back to kind of bring, and then you guys got shanghaied. I mean, when they say in the military, when they are in the pirate navy where they Shanghai you is when they hit you on the head and they put you on the ship and then you wake up on the ship and they go, you're now a pirate. You got shanghaied.
I don't think so.
No, you got you
we knew what we were doing.
I know you did, but you had no idea how boring Southern Illinois could be.
That for sure.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So you guys had no idea.
That was definitely a culture shock.
That was a culture shock. I have no doubt
question
about it.
That's why my mother didn't stay. She just couldn't handle it.
She couldn't handle it. She went back. Yeah,
went back.
So like I said, my great great grandma went back just to have surgery because she couldn't handle the doctors here. Right. You think so you're on the boat. You've gotten married already.
Yeah.
So the military has to get your credentials. Where did you land when you came to the United States?
We landed in New York, but my husband he landed a couple of days before us,
Did you go to, was the Statue of Liberty there yet?
Yeah, but we didn't go because my husband was from a very small town, so he couldn't care less about that. He wanted to come home.
He wanted to come home.
He was ready to come home.
Where was he from originally?
He was born in Heron.
He's a Heron boy. Just like my grandpa. Heron.
The house next to where I'm living now, that's what he was born.
Okay, my grandpa is living in the house. His dad was the White House next door, and he gave him part of the land, so he's living where he always lived.
Well, when we came, his mom and dad owned the house next door, and they rented to one of the Branca boys, which he was getting a divorce, so the house was back, it belonged to my father-in-law. So they gave it to us. So we lived in it for about 4 or 5 years, and then I said, we got to get something different here. I mean, we got to. So we built the house that we're in now, and I'm still there.
Wow.
After 75 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
On the same lot.
In the same lot, the same place. And did you, when you moved back here, were you finished with high school and college?
Yes.
Did you go back to school?
No, I didn't go to college.
You finished that?
Yeah, I finished high school and I went to work.
Did you,
My sister went to college when she came.
She went to college. She went to SIU, you said.
SIU.
And became an educator.
She really wanted to take Italian, but they were not offering it. So she took Spanish as a foreign language, and then she taught it.
She could have taken Italian and aced it.
They didn't offer it.
They didn't even offer it.
They didn't offer. No, nobody even. We had a student coming from Champaign. She was taking Italian there, and she thought she could take it in SIU. They didn't offer it, so she took our class. Wow. To pick up a little more because we were not at that level because she was a college level, but at least it's better than not getting anything at all.
Right.
Yeah. They just
so what did you do when you got here? Did you do secretarial work? Did you go directly?
I didn't do anything because I couldn't speak English.
Right.
2 years later, I had my son, so that kept me busy.
You began to have your children. Excellent.
Yeah. After a couple of years, and then it was about 9 years before I had my daughter. And then 3 years after I had my young son.
So you grew a family very quick here. Yeah. Got involved with all that. They all went to Heron High School and
they all went to Mount Carmel, Orlando, Mount Carmel. Catholic school.
So has OLMC had a school that long?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just never have asked how old the school is.
Over 100 years old.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
I just have never asked.
That's why they had to. It was deteriorating. It had a lot of asbestos. So they had to have, it was going to cost, I don't know, $1 million or more to refurbish it. So they decided to build a new one.
And it's beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yeah, we needed that. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing work there.
So,
OLMC has an incredible school here. They've refurbished it.
They do well. The students do
very
well in our school.
So just give me some.
Actually, all my kids and my grandchildren, my son that you saw today, he had 3 boys.
All went to Olmsted.
They all went there.
Yeah. And then what did your husband do here when he got back from the military? What was the post-military like?
He drove a truck for Budweiser. That was his main job first. For 5 years, he worked in the mines.
Everybody here worked in the mines for a while. My grandpa hated it.
I didn't even know what the mines were. I mean, I was not around people. You know what I mean? There was no mines around Milano.
Right. But they brought a lot of Italians over to do mining, I guess.
Because the company would advertise jobs in the mines in the United States.
And recruited. That's how come so many Italians are here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And my grandpa said he hated Grandpa Charlie worked in the mines his whole life, but then Don could not handle being down in the mines, so he said
But no, that's a horrible place.
It was horrible. He said it was horrible. He couldn't handle it either.
And then I think the conditions were not as good as now.
No, terrible.
I mean, I don't know that, but I know that
they were terrible.
That my husband was due because his dad was working in the mine, so he had a family by that time. So we've been here 5 years. So he wanted a job. So he thought he was going to start there, but it was that night that one mine had a big explosion and they lost 200 some people. Oh. So after that, he never wanted to go. So he never get started in the mine.
So you're in Milano. The war is over. Where were you, and how did you hear the war was over? How did you find out the war was done?
You find out because it's all over the newspaper.
Everywhere.
I mean, everywhere. The war was over when they got to Bologna. The Germans surrendered. Mm-hmm. It was the end of the war. Period.
Praise God and praise God. And so did the.
I mean, but I met Harry after that.
So it was after the war's over,
yes,
when they're all on leave and taking their. My grandpa said he got quite a bit of leave and furlough in Italy. He drove all over Italy he got a motorcycle or a Jeep or something. Drove all over Italy and then he got called back to his base. He got quite a bit of leave time.
No, he did. I mean, he didn't do anything like that I know of.
Yeah.
He just worked. He was worked there. But like I said, he just. But when they deploy him in Tarcento, they gave him. He was very good in baseball, and so they put him on this baseball team. Mm-hmm. And he played baseball up there in Tarcento for that little time that
he was there.
He was there. So we were married by that time, but he didn't stay there very long.
But this is after the. How fast did Milano start recovering after the war? Did you begin to see things come back to normal? Was it still pretty?
I didn't get to see it.
It was pretty. You were pretty much leaving by the time it started to recover, right? Milano now, of course, is the fashion capital, one of the fashion capitals of the world. So it's a very ritzy, very beautiful city. Yeah. So it would be back more, even beyond maybe what you saw back in the day. So as far as the glitz and the glamour and the culture there.
They still have a lot of class as far as the modeling. They say actually if you want to be a good model in the United States, if you model in Milano first, you'll make it here.
You got to go there first, yeah.
It's one,
Right. So when the war was over, what kind of celebration was there? Did you and your friends have a party? Did everybody have a party, or did you just go take a nap and go finally it's over?
No, I mean nobody took a nap. There was too much going on to take a nap, but I mean everybody was, joyous. I mean naturally when something like that it's over.
There was a celebration. Yeah. My grandfather said everywhere he went in Italy was he said the troops were so well received by the Italians and just treated so well. He said it was just unbelievable. Yeah. He said the Italian people were just amazing. So
I feel like it's just like the German people because they didn't want the war either.
No, they didn't.
No, they were happy to be over too.
I know Italy dragged them into it.
Right.
The bad thing is that I think the Patton was right. They should have continued. They would have, helped a lot of those Polish people that they lost a lot when they stopped there because Eisenhower had the arrangement, but with the Russian, I forgot who it was at the moment.
You think the Russians were able to root in and take over Poland because we didn't finish cleaning things up and freeing things? So we basically...
We should have gone like Patton wanted to do it.
He wanted to push everybody out and give them the country back.
You give the country back, get Poland
to
back.
the Polish people.
Exactly.
So instead, Russia kind of claimed it.
Yeah, they had to be under the Russian regime for the next 4 years or something.
And it was brutal for them.
Very bad.
So basically, the Russians almost became like the new Germans.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't realize that.
And the Polish people knew it. That's why they even pleaded, and they put in a good word for Patton.
And Patton wanted to finish it. He wanted to go on through there and help everybody.
Because he knew he could do it.
He could do it, yeah.
But see, as in our day, I understand they already had this agreement with
the Russian.
With the Russian, that they stop there and then we take over from there.
Oh.
Isn't it amazing
that
how
was a
these
mistake.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and think about the amount of pain the Polish people went through.
Exactly, for all those years.
All those years, until their liberation would come.
Exactly.
And now it's just,
they did it.
It's amazing what two or three people can do in a back room.
Exactly.
That will put whether it be a Mussolini, or whether
thousands
it
of people.
Thousands of people will live in misery as a
because
result.
once they discovered those ovens, it was unbelievable.
So do you think that this is really kind of interesting? A lot of the Jews were killed in Poland, right? In up in Germany, some of them were killed. Were some of the concentration camps in the Polish regions?
I'm not sure about
Or pretty
that.
much all in the part of Germany?
I think they were all in Germany.
Okay, so that seems to be a pretty hidden, kept secret. My question is, when did that really come out? When people knew what?
Well, here's the thing: the people don't understand here about this gun thing. First thing he did, took the guns away.
Where did he take the guns away at? In Italy?
No, in Germany.
In Germany. So when he came in and said, we want to take everybody's guns from them.
So what I'm saying is the people could not defend themselves.
And so the communist mindset could take over, the dictatorship of Hitler could take over because they'd already taken their guns in advance. Right. So there's nothing you could do to stop a government.
And then they were very slick, exactly like they're doing now. The one thing at a time, they took one thing at a time.
Wow.
Very slowly, and people didn't understand that he was a big talker.
Right.
And,
so were the freedom to speak being oppressed very early in that, where people normally could have spoke free? Did they start restricting people's speech and threatening people?
I imagine so. I didn't live in Germany, but I mean, seeing.
Did Mussolini do some of that?
He did some of that because my mother said I didn't experience it, because by the time, I was of age to understand, things were pretty leveled off. I mean, they take over. It already happened.
Boy, you've raised a real thought process here. We're gonna have Lucas. How are we doing on this second show? Where are we time wise? Are we decent?
Yeah, we're only like 15.
Well, that's good because she just opened a can of worms. My wife. You're telling us that you're feeling today. You're seeing us in the United States, starting to make some of the same mistakes the Germans did as they went to sleep, and then they wake up and all of a sudden,
what happened?
Exactly. You're feeling some of that oppression to freedom of speech and freedom of press, and then taking people's guns away. Yeah. Like I'm a gun owner. I mean, I think one of the things that we have in America is the right to bear arms and protect ourselves. And if you ever had a tyrannical government,
that's the first thing they'll do.
They'll take your guns
because then you can't.
You can't fight back.
Exactly.
So you think some of what's happening now with gun control and that?
I do think that there should be a regulation. Now.
Sure.
They're automatic and all this.
Well, I do too.
But I think people should.
We don't think criminals should have guns. We think I don't have a problem having a license.
The guns anyway.
They're going to get the guns anyway. Right.
That's the thing about it. They don't understand. It's not the guns doing the thing. It's the people using the guns.
I think it's good to have a carry license, so you know what you're doing with the weapon. You know the rules of it. I think all that's good, but what you're saying is just the removal of that can be a very easy predecessor to walk into a dictatorship or a communistic regime. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. You may be giving it. You may be a little bit of a prophet here.
Well, I mean, I'm very passionate about it because I lived through it, and people I can't even comprehend people seeing it any other way because. You don't have any freedom.
How did the counter-war fighters in Italy? They fought back. Matter of fact, my grandpa said that the Italian resistance fought up through Italy with them in some places, and they support them. But Ben Mussolini had his troops, which were allied with the Germans. How did the resistance get their own weapons? Were they their own weapons that they had as kids? Were they getting them from other war
No,
sources?
they were getting I think they were getting through the Americans underground.
Underground, right?
They were getting the supply from there because
they had taken most of you couldn't just go get a gun at that point in time. Mussolini kind of locked that down.
No, we didn't. The young men didn't have guns.
So they had
but when they joined the underground, then they got the supply.
That was the only way to fight back was through the underground.
Oh yeah, that was the only way because if they catch you, they will kill you.
Oh, they didn't put you in jail; they just shot you.
Yeah.
It was bad. Okay.
So there was no way getting out.
The Germans were not the German people, but the German military was very tough. Very violent.
Here we had the one that I remember. They were the SS, which was the top-notch military. But they were all young kids. They were all 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
They were because they've been groomed.
Right.
Like
they were ruthlessly groomed.
They were groomed from when they were, in kindergarten. So if their command was to kill their parents, they do that. They didn't question it.
I think one of the powerful things, this is my opinion, America, you have a freedom to speak, you have a freedom to kind of do some things you want to do and own a weapon and there's a lot of prosperity things here, but you can see in the last 4, 5, 6, 8 years there's a repression to speech, to even Twitter. My wife was it my wife got in trouble.
Got canceled.
Yeah, canceled. She got canceled. I got canceled. Listen, you're gonna love this, Sandra. On Christmas Eve here at church, we do our services on video like your church does. On the Christmas Eve feed, Lucas runs our feed. It goes out to Facebook and YouTube, and while it's being broadcasted, people are watching our Christmas Eve service on. And these aren't. It's not on TV. It's only being watched by people that clicked on it and said, "I want to watch it."
Right.
So they're part of our church. I said Merry Christmas to people. Merry Christmas. They shut us down.
Oh, for goodness sake.
For that. And we weren't sure, so we put the feedback up, and I said it again. They did it again. We have another one that sent somebody a picture. I think, was it you, Lucas? He got a picture. We were doing a conference here for my friend Fred Bishop with No Greater Love Ministries, and their logo is NGL, and it has the word Jesus and a heart on it. And when they sent him the logo, they blurred it out and said, "We've blurred this out because this could be insulting or what was it? Offensive to you." When when he blocked through it, it just had the word Jesus and a heart.
Unbelievable.
So Facebook said this could be offensive to you, so we've blurred it so we don't want to hurt you. It could hurt you.
Hurt what? I mean, you can't do anything without hurting somebody.
No.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to do the right thing, and know that you.
I would have never dreamt that I couldn't say Merry Christmas on my church feed to people that are choosing to watch it because it would be culturally insensitive, and that would be a correction error for us. And there's just more and more of those. My wife stays in trouble with Facebook now. She's canceled.
Well, but we have to stay in there.
Yeah, we do.
Because we don't want to let it intimidate us. That's the whole thing, because that's what they're doing.
But that's a lot of what they did back in those days with people speaking in public.
Yeah,
and I know it's computer now, but
the same
marketplace. It was a market then. It was this there,
exactly.
And they're shadow banning people and disappearing people.
I can't even comprehend people living here, and there's half of it because the race is pretty close, everywhere. I think that they don't understand what is going on.
You can't comprehend that they don't see what's going on.
No,
I can't either.
that.
Because you'll hear people go, well, if they take all our guns, then nobody will have guns. I got news for you. People will always have guns that need guns because they'll steal them, they'll borrow them, they'll make them, they'll build them.
The thing of it is, we shouldn't have to reach the point that we need to use the gun.
No.
That's what my thing is.
No, we should never.
If people have enough common sense and just follow what is going on.
And do what's right.
And do what's right.
Right.
But
first of all, they need to restore God in our lives.
Well, let's talk about that.
That's the very first thing.
We are struggling with that at every level.
I know.
Because right now, you can't hardly talk about Jesus or God or being a male and a female without being offensive to some. You can't even say, I'm a man and she's a woman and that's my wife without being offensive.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
And I'm going to say this out front. Beth and I we believe that God made us male and female, and that marriage is between a husband and wife.
Exactly.
For me to say that, we could be canceled on this show. Maybe.
I mean,
they may get mad because they say, well, you're being exclusive. Well, I'm a Christian, and that's what my Bible says.
I mean, for century. There was a man and a woman. So I don't even understand where they went from.
I don't either.
I mean, for 9,000 years that we know in the Bible, it's gone that way.
Exactly. So
Somewhere in the last 5-10 years,
where
it's
are
just
these people coming from?
it's just flipped. And I know the enemy of God is the devil.
Do you change the church to falter the people?
The churches went to sleep.
Yeah.
I think when the church, like taking the guns, they take the ability to speak. I think the church has gone to sleep. Many churches, yours hasn't, but whether it be Methodist churches or Episcopalian or Lutheran, many of them now are marrying people same sex. Many of them are supportive of abortion rights. I mean, we're in a state, Sandra, where we're going to have 2 abortion clinics in Carbondale. We're going to have a mobile one and now another one. So there's going to be 2 clinics in Carbondale, one by the high school. There's going to be 2 mobile clinics by the end of next year. We are no longer a state of tourism. We're a state of abortion tourism. People, I mean, and if people think God's going to honor that,
No.
There's nowhere in the Bible that God honors child sacrifice. I realize mistakes happen and people get scared, but you know what?
Well, I mean, God is still in charge.
God's still in charge.
And that's what we have to keep focusing on.
But Southern Illinois is always kind of like the middle of the country. It's kind of conservative. It's kind of out of there. You would think we'd be preserved from it, but we're not.
No.
The schools
we're
aren't. We're not. We're not safe from it.
No, but I'm glad to see the parents taking charge of the children's life.
Yeah, I am too.
And just take over. They have to just take over, not let the state do it.
I think you're going to have to
Let
really
indoctrinate them. If they have to pull them all out of the public school,
There you
let
go.
them fall.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yes,
Is
let them fall.
OLMC
Yes.
able to hold the ground with their school, do you believe? Are they keeping the biblical?
Oh yeah,
Very much so.
The kids go to church, I think, at least
Excellent.
twice a week.
And I think Agape's doing pretty well here and Unity's doing well.
Like on Sunday, instead of the adults saying the mass, the children
Are doing the mass.
They read the
So
gospel. And
you're of the mind that parents are going to probably have to either put their kids in Christian school, parochial school, or homeschool.
Exactly.
And not sacrifice them to the state school.
No,
Right.
no.
Because the state school is going to program them.
And no. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well-
And evidently you can't stop them because then they call you, what did they call the parents?
Bigots, whatever they call you, tyrants,
Terrorists.
unfit.
Terrorists.
So during the wartime, when you were dealing with people like Mussolini and Hitler and stuff, they would use propaganda to train up the children. Like you said, the German kids, 16, 17, that were Nazis. They were groomed into that. They were turned into that.
They did, like they're doing now.
They are doing it.
And now
Not
we're
all-
grooming our children the same way.
Not only that, he promised a lot of stuff like they're doing now, and
Yes.
then when he got on, he didn't do it.
Right.
But that in order to entice
Free
the
education.
people-
We're going to wipe away your loans. We're going to do this and this. Just give us your guns, give us your mind, give us your spirit.
that loan is insane.
It's
Because,
insane.
I mean, that's not fair to the people that paid their loan. That then they have to turn around and pay for somebody else.
I know.
When the people that have the big loan are usually the lawyers and all, and the doctor. When they
Right.
come out, they make big money.
Okay,
Right.
we've been paying on our student loans for 30 years. I got my
Exactly.
master's, my doctorate, and all this on our kids. I just want to know, Sandra, if we're going to give all these people back, are they going to refund all mine for the last 30 years?
Oh, heck no.
And where are we going to? And if they are, where do we get the money from? Is it the Chinese, or are you going to pay it?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make
It's
sense.
insane.
It is insane.
It's insane. And right now we're in a recession, which I believe
Oh, no, they don't call it that. What did they call it?
they're
call it,
they're calling a little stumble or something, but
something they say.
but it is a recession.
It's good now, but they say it's good for the country. I mean,
Yeah, if you don't know this, guys, my bachelor's is in economics and finance. So I have a finance degree and stuff like that. We are in a recession.
Well, sure.
We're 3/4 in now. What
only
people?
he doesn't know it.
Yeah. We tell. But guess what? We are like 2 more. Like in February or March, we could be in a depression because that's 4 quarters of this, and we're headed. And it's. Here's the deal: 2023 will be worse. I'll just tell you. You look at everything; it's going to get worse.
Sure, it's going to get worse before it get better. That's why.
And they're going to try to pay, they're going to try to spend more money out of it, and that'll just put us in worse shape because we don't have any money.
We got to take it back.
We owe $31 trillion to other people.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Just that, it should worry the people. And these people that they're on the far left, I don't understand what they're thinking.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's like, I think it's so interesting that you came out of this and you grew up in this, and yet you see a parallel to where we're going now.
Well, yeah.
Do you think, I mean, and to me, it's on a global scale.
That's why I supported a lot of Latino black people that are running, military people. Like Brian Marcy lost both of his legs because these people fought to keep our freedom.
Right.
You know, and I know they're going to fight in our country.
Yes,
to
they
maintain
understand.
them. Yeah,
Right.
they understand what it is to fight for our freedom.
Yeah.
You know, the sacrifice. And there's one lady that now that is running that her husband is blind. Well, I don't know if it's Carrie Lake or the other. I get confused because there's so many.
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
many.
Well,
remember.
let me just ask you, how do we, where would you say America's got to start? Where do we got to start waking up people today? Where do you think we need to start?
Well, I think I watched like Flashpoint, you know,
Flashpoint?
program like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had to start from the church.
You got to get some
Yes.
from the church, getting back to the Bible,
Yeah.
but you've got to look at your church first because you've got multiple churches in our community here, Sandra. I hate to tell you this, multiple churches, whose doctrine supports things that are directly opposed to the Bible.
So,
We got to sort the churches out. The churches are a mess.
Exactly. You have to, I mean, you have to preach what the Bible teaches.
Right.
And that's
So
all
we've got to
that's it.
sift out the churches. We need to get back to the authentic Word of God and being faithful followers of Christ, good Christians,
Exactly.
and restore God back to the family. You believe that the families need to take back the education of their children
Definitely.
and not expect the government to do it,
No.
but raise your own children.
Exactly.
In the admonition of God, in the admonition of what's right.
Exactly.
And that may mean you're going to have to, I mean, for somebody to go to parochial school or to go to Christian school, they're going to, in our state, they're never going to give us the money back. So you're going to have to spend extra money. You're going to have to get a second job or cut back on,
That's okay.
cut back on TV or the credit card.
You can't put a price on a child's education.
Yeah. And the indoctrination of our
There's
children.
No price to it.
Right.
It's you don't sacrifice your children's mind
No.
to try to live.
It's a long, lifelong.
Make the sacrifice now.
Exactly.
Get the second job.
We sacrificed when we sent both of our 3 children. to
Absolutely.
seminary.
Yes.
We did too.
But we didn't even think about it.
Right.
No.
I mean, it was a must do.
Right.
So parents are going to have to make sacrifices. We're going to have to recommit ourselves to Christian education.
This is one of the problem, I think, because of that generation, they're not used to sacrificing. You know, they want the big SUV, the big house, they want the boat, they want this and that and that. You can't have it all sometime.
Right.
So you have to choose which one is the most important one.
So you sacrifice some of that stuff and you get your children educated and give them a chance.
And then you can, later on in life.
Because the alternative, here's the alternative. The alternative is we wake up in a dictatorial communistic regime where now we're having to sacrifice the lives of our sons and daughters to kind of regain freedom.
Well, I mean,
And then that will cost human lives.
Well, not only that, what it's happening, the silencing the people, from the right. There's no freedom. We don't have any freedom.
Yeah, the Christian viewpoint, let alone the right viewpoint, is very hostile right now.
But that's what I say. I mean, you can't do it because they're targeting.
When I, as a pastor, say that we only perform marriage that's biblical, and I say we're a very pro-life church, we'll help families through those struggles. But when I say that, we become bigotry. We can be immediately censored as being hateful.
Not only that, they can sue you.
Absolutely.
Like the poor guy that didn't want to bake the cake.
Right.
There
Right.
were probably a dozen bakeries that would have baked the cake, but they wanted.
But they wanted to
Capone
pick one just to do that.
just to be mean.
We have phone calls of people that will call our church office to say, will Pastor Troy do a wedding for me? Will he do a same-sex wedding? They call and ask because they're creating lists right now of what churches they're going to sue.
Is that
So
right?
when they call our office, my secretary says he only does weddings for people that attend his church. So she didn't answer the question. She says, but you have to attend there and you have to speak to him personally. He only does weddings he chooses. But people are calling just to create lists for the next,
right.
I believe the next level will be, they'll begin to round up or shut down certain
Right,
churches, certain groups, certain businesses.
That's very dangerous.
And that's what you're concerned about.
Exactly.
And as you take away guns and you take away voice, people won't even know what's happening.
No, one thing at a time.
Because most people are just playing, they're in this world.
Exactly.
And they're just off in a world.
Right.
So you think there needs to be a wake up of God, there needs to be a wake up of families, and take responsibility for their own children.
Yeah.
And not the free stuff.
I think, unfortunately, though, our kids have been already being groomed in school And we didn't realize.
Exactly.
We didn't know what they were teaching them.
No, we've got to take it back. I mean,
we've had some of it, even our kids, where we've had to have tough conversations because, you know, Heron had a good school system, and then all of a sudden it became intrinsically filled with things from the state of Illinois Department of Education. And even these local schools in Southern Illinois, they used to be pretty good schools. And I think there's good teachers there that are trying to do good things. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much being shoved down through the curriculum.
It's so much expected.
So much expected. And then the new teachers have been only brought up in this. So they, you know, right
But
now.
the universities are just.
And the universities are
that's the
lated.
worst.
They're the worst. Yeah. So even our kids that are raised in Christian homes are being forced to look at these things constantly, and they're going, well, are you guys sure? They're confused.
Yeah.
A lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And then they think what I love is when they say, well, it's the most stressful time to have ever lived. I'm thinking, well, you didn't live in Sandra Milan, Italy in 1945. You know,
Right.
you don't know what's not being without. And everybody's time is their time.
Right.
But we could also learn back from people like yourself. You've lived a long, incredible life, but you're telling us, I lived through this. I've seen God come through this. I've built a great family and a life through it. But you're also fearful right now of what your grandchildren and what the future may face.
Yeah.
And you see some evidence.
Because all through my life, I never let go of the church.
Wow. You maintain that connection.
I maintained that connection, you know.
Well, and praise
At time
God.
it was stronger than others, you know. But
Would you agree the
still,
church is about as weak as it's ever been in your life?
I think so.
I do too. It's
Definitely, because even in Italy, a few years ago, during Festa, we had this priest coming from Italy. And he said already that the attendance was very low, even in Italy, which these little women, they used to go every day to church. Mm-hmm. But that generation, it's gone.
Right.
And so
they told us when we visited, they said mostly churches are used for weddings and funerals.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't.
When we did our Italian trip for 30 days, we saw very little other than the church as a big event place.
Well, actually, even now, there's very few that get married in church.
Mm.
So that's disappearing as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're
Father said that on Sunday.
We're in a very strong crossroads right now because
we are.
We as a society, because I don't always think the world's going to end. I don't look at that because you can look at, there's been cycles throughout history of what happened to you, what you grew up in. But if we don't correct soon, we will have to go through something traumatic like you did.
Because the world never end, because the prayers say world without end. So we just go through different phases, you know, but it's never going to end.
My hope is that our kids would look at what you've gone through, and I would like to think our generation's getting smarter, but it doesn't look like it. I'd like to think we're smart enough to kind of realize what's happening.
They're smarter in a different way. They're smart in technology. They know, and I mean, I'm not up to all these technology things, but I have a lot of common sense.
Right.
You know, for things that I experienced, and I learned from those experiences, came to conclusions and stuff like that. What they learn all through those computer knowledge, what they feed them.
Right.
They feed them all this, you know, craziness.
Yes.
Insanity.
Okay, give me 1, 2, maybe 3. If you had to speak to the grandkids of today, the children of today, the young people today, and tell them what's ahead, how would you tell them where were the things that you would tell them to wake up and begin to think about turning around or beginning to think about modifying before we end up in our own worst case scenario of a global disaster?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but personally, I would go, you know, all down to your church and down to your family. And those are two very important things, because if families stay together, you know, you have some strength there.
Isn't it interesting, though? One of the most interesting things right now is most attacks are on freedom of speech, on guns, and then on the identification of who you are as an individual, and then the family. The families,
who you are.
Yeah, the family's almost one of the most tough areas right now of family identity.
Exactly. But here's what I'm saying. If you stay close to God, then you know who you are.
Yes.
Yeah, because the state's trying to pull children away from their parents, and if a parent goes back to their values, they say, well, your parent, maybe you need to be taken away from your parent because they're imposing old biblical values on you. So if you impose biblical values on your own kids, it can be seen today as a hateful act. And so we're in a time where the government's almost putting children against their own parents and parents against their own children.
And we know that's been going on in Germany for years already.
Way
because
back.
We have friends that live there, and some of the things they told us.
Yeah, because I don't think Germans are allowed to homeschool.
No, they're not. They're not.
So that's ridiculous.
They're required to give an allowance. They're required to have a cell phone. They're required, what is it?
To have access to the internet.
Access to the internet.
They're required. You have to give them an allowance, a certain amount.
Once
of
they're a
money
certain age, they're allowed to sexual activity. You know, I mean, they're just almost program controlled over the parents, and the parents in Germany have taken a back seat. It's kind of interesting that Germany's going down the same hole again as well, maybe faster than we are.
Well, I'm glad to see that Italy, just elected this.
It's a big move, isn't it? And who was that?
Yes.
Was it Finland or one of the other Norwegian companies? Also did the same thing.
Well, I'm glad, but they're calling her fascist. Well, no,
they
she's
call
everything bad.
But very much freedom.
Right.
And then you're also even seeing pushbacks in England and London. We'll see if more of that happens.
I hope
You're
so.
almost seeing a return to a conservative family values starting to happen in the European world. And part of that's going to be a pushback against Belgium and Brussels and that whole European control thing, which is also what's being controlled here.
I think if we had a different administration at this point, we won't be where we are.
Yeah,
We've
really.
We would not be here.
I will say this to you. In the last, I've been a pastor for 34 years. We saw evidence of this happening even when I was in seminary. At the seminary level, we saw some of these early signs 35 years ago, okay?
Yeah,
but we didn't see it in the church. We saw some in the church about 20 years ago at the bishop level, at the leadership level. You'd see it at the far right and extreme, and it was considered far out. 10 years ago, it was moving in and becoming more common. But in the last 5 years...
Here's what happened. The people become desensitized.
Very desensitized.
And so... you get used to the news. It's shocking at first, but then you hear them again the next day and the next day, and then it becomes normal.
But let me say this to you. The last 18 months post-COVID has been unreal. The level of Hollywood TV.
Hollywood is wipe them out.
Beth and I we've tried to watch several of the new season shows.
Yeah.
There's not one show that doesn't open with multiple things that are countercultural to a Christian almost right away. It's not side. It's not a little thing. It's in your face.
Even cartoons.
Cartoons are worse.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So we are in a real time where we're going to have to almost shut that stuff off. Problem is we also need information. So and then the news is not news anymore. You need to know where you're getting it, who's getting it. You just got to be out there and pay attention, and don't let anybody feed you something till you check it yourself, because information is propaganda now.
Yeah.
What we used to call news is propaganda. Propaganda is trying to set your mind. You've got to go back and get original source, compare it, and maybe think for your. Sandra, we might have to think for ourselves.
Exactly.
Maybe.
And to be able to think for ourselves, we're going to have family values. We're going to have godly knowledge of the Bible, and then we can apply those things. I think a lot of people have left family values. They've left godly values. So the standards by which we live on are kind of unknown by children today. We're going to have to restore those.
But I think that the parents need to restrict the children, what they see, what they
watch, access,
what they watch, and all of that.
Yeah.
Because there's too much garbage out there.
And I know that sounds like we're harsh and being old. I mean, I'm 56, Beth's 59, you're 95, but we're really serious. We are being so desensitized.
Exactly.
You can't watch anything now. And to be honest with you, Hollywood programs that. It's not like you think it is. But by the time you get done watching 4 shows in a row, you think, well, everybody's like that.
And it's a shame.
And they're not. You're being programmed.
It's a shame because we are such good actors.
Yeah.
But they're not choosing the right roles.
Yeah.
Right?
Just incredible. So you're thinking restoration of the family, restoration of relationship with God are probably the 2 big keys for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, everything else falls into place.
And lastly, as we wrap this up, you're also saying that we need to wake up right now, because you see a lot of the sliding that led into World War II, World War I.
Exactly.
A lot of the work that fascism and dictators, I love the society that they call, well, you're a fascist. And I'm thinking, no, you're actually a fascist. Right. They use the language to put on us, but if you really look at it, it's what they're promoting. Right. They really call you what they're doing. You know, we always tell people if you point a finger at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing back. That's exactly what you see alive today.
No. Oh, I know.
And
they accuse the other people what they're doing.
exactly what they're doing. And then as a result,
the-
you become desensitized.
That's a mind-boggling thing.
Yeah.
You know, to make you feel like you're the guilty one when they are.
Okay, so I want to ask this. You believe, like we do, that people have lost their mind and they can't, and the fact that they can't see what's happening, it just makes you, it fries your mind.
It does.
Most of our days are like that now too. So I don't know. We sit and go, you got to be kidding. I mean, what happened? What happened in 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years that we would flush family values, we would flush biblical values,
No, we gotta get
societal values out, and what served the world for 6, 7, 8,000 years, if known civilization, we're going to say that we're all of a sudden smarter and better. Well, right now we're 31 trillion in debt. We have a society that's so fractured. People don't know who they are or what they are. They don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. They can't even define what a boy is and what a girl is right now.
That's
Our leaders can't.
unbelievable.
It's beautiful. If you've got a science teacher and she can't tell you what a man is and what a woman is, you need to get a different teacher.
But the worst part that I think the worst part, that our children are punished for talking about their friends as a he or a she.
Oh, it's very.
mean, that's-
You can't do anything. We've got children in
sick.
our schools here in Williamson County that identify as kitty cats and teapots, and one is an umbrella.
Oh my gosh!
And
who are they?
and in the schools, and the teachers are forced to go along and call them a little teapot or a little kitty cat. One school discussion is, this is in here in Marion, is the one that identifies as kitty wants to have a litter box in the bathroom. I swear to you,
What's that mean?
they want a litter box to pee in because they identify as a kitty cat. So rather than use a toilet, they use a litter box.
Oh, for goodness sake!
I know.
That's insane.
And the fact that
I would pull my child out of there in a flash.
it's over with. It's a done deal. That's where we're at. So parents, people have been mad at me here because I've lost several families because we agreed any family that wanted to get their kids out of school, this church did. If you want to get your families into Christian schools or homeschool, if you can't afford it all, we'll help you. Right. So our church has helped with
That's
about 8
good.
or 9 families. Well, I lost about 20 good people, got mad because, let me just tell you, 3 or 4 of them were all retired educators and they're all insulted. And they said, if you take all the school kids out, how will our pensions get paid? Who cares?
I was going to say that again. It's all about me.
It's all about me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I'm not going to sacrifice our children. And so they're
No.
mad at us because if we don't keep our kids in the schools, we'll never turn the schools around. Well, our children aren't going to be you can't give up your children to turn the schools
And
around.
you say you lost some good. No, they were not that good.
They were not that good. And that's exactly what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
Because
They're not that
I'm
good.
disappointed because anybody would sacrifice their children. Look in the Bible. The Bible says when they began to slaughter and sacrifice their children, God says, I never dreamed of sacrificing our children. Right. Whether that be for abortion or whether it be sacrificing your children to the gods of this world or to the anti-family gods of this world, then that's the same. And so we've lost some people to that, but I'm not moving on it.
But it's not a loss.
It's not a loss. It's a gain.
No,
and
exactly.
I'm embarrassed for them.
Well,
but
yeah,
there's
I
going to
would
be
too.
hard decisions though for families, Christians, churches, and again, Sandra's saying you need to get back in church. Make sure your church is God honoring, follows the Apostles' Creed, honors the teachings of Jesus and the apostles. If they're not doing that, be concerned about that.
I think that this Fresh Boy that I'm watching, they have big revivals.
Big revivals.
All over the place. And they say like Mike, what's his name? But anyway, the young people are hungry.
There is a
Yeah.
there is
They
a
hear the
revival
word of
taking
God.
place.
Yeah.
Guys Lucas age and below, there is a movement of God taking place.
Right.
At the same time, there's many of them that are highly conflicted. So I do think God's going to raise up an army, and I realize our kids are living for God.
Right.
There are kids born into this for such a day.
Right.
You and I are like, my goodness. But kids, God will raise up kids in this day.
Yeah.
But we as parents and grandparents need to not take our hands off the wheel. We need to help raise that next year.
We do. We have to stay in
I
there.
think you've raised some incredible, important things that we need to realize.
Yeah.
I never thought about the fact that we're sliding down the same slope, maybe even faster right now. And
Well, we are faster, but anyway, I didn't get to tell you all the friendship and everything.
give us one more round.
Well, I mean, I met so many interesting people, from since I've been here. Yeah. Like my friend there, and then one time when the Pope came here, when he came to
Yes, I remember.
Colorado, when he comes, he has his own physician, but also they have another doctor from the area. So this doctor was the Pope's physician there in Colorado when he was in Colorado a few years ago. But the same doctor did some pro bono work over here in Mount Vernon. And so he befriended the secretary to the Pope. And so he didn't know how to communicate because he didn't know how to speak English, and this doctor didn't know how to speak Italian. So he got my name and everything. He contacted me, and I was able to translate things from him. And then he went to Rome. The Pope blessed him when his wife was pregnant. He sent me a picture of that with the poem and all. I have it.
So
I
cool.
couldn't find it. And so that was just a very interesting thing. And one time when he came back, he brought me a medal from the Vatican. And and then I met some people on the plane that I kept a friendship forever, even though we didn't see each other. You know, one lady, I came back from Italy one time by myself, and her family was in Chicago. When we landed, she wanted me to introduce to all of them. And she was only here to visit. She told her sister, be sure to call this lady because she's a nice lady. But the sister kept my number for 20 years.
Wow.
And then one Saturday, the phone rang, and it was her. She said, I'm so-and-so, do you remember? I said, yeah. She says, I haven't called you all these years because I was busy because I raised 7 children. I said, well, you're excused then.
You've had
And then we kept in touch and never met until she died.
You've had an amazing, diverse
I
group
know.
of friendships, experiences, and stuff.
So, and then I helped three teenagers come here and spend 1 year here at our high school. And I'm still in touch with them. One has a job in London, and we still call each other, and the other in Italy. And a boy is back here. He wants to be in America. He wanted to join the American Army, but he couldn't. But he came back and finished his education here. He's in California now.
Well, let me ask you this. This is my thought for you. I know that Milan was an incredible place to live, and then you got brought to here. I think Heron got the better end of the deal because we've been a lot better place with having you here, Sandra, and raising your family and here. But we are moving up in the world. I just want to tell you this. Maybe you've not heard, but we are getting an Olive Garden.
I know. I heard that.
So I just want you to know that Italy is coming to Marion very soon.
Well, then we always had PNR. That was pretty good.
We're getting Olive Garden. We've been talking about here. How long have we been talking about? 30, like my whole time here. Since here. Every time they cancel, it's actually been broken ground. It's going to be on the way into Marion there on the right. And so you're going to have a taste of Italy at Olive Garden. Although Olive Garden's
Like
not
I
bad.
said,
It's not like it.
I'll get the taste of Italy PNR. I guess a lot of
Louis PNR is always a good.
Louis.
Yeah, Louis is the best you got around here for that. So it's very good. Gives you solid meats and good food.
Exactly.
So, but we're going to get a little more taste of Italy if we get Olive Garden.
Yeah.
So
What was the book that you
Beneath the Scarlet Sky.
Beneath the Scarlet Sky.
That's exactly what this young man experienced. The same thing. He was there the same time I was because I didn't know him. But this Mark Sullivan, the writer, wanted to talk about these unsung heroes. And he talks about the underground because, you know, the big newspaper, they talk about the generals, but they don't talk about these other people they give their lives to.
Yeah.
And so it was one of my students read the book, and when he read it, he told his wife, Sandra's got to read this. Since he knows that I don't read very, because of my eyes, he sent me audio.
Oh, that's good.
An
So you
audio.
did
An audio book on audio.
On that book.
It doesn't.
So it's about a lot of experiences
Like
that you went
And
through.
it talks about those 13 people, those sabotage and those people that were let out. I experienced that.
Right.
Let me ask you a question before we wrap up, because I think that raises a good question for. If we've been talking about how what you went through kind of is we see kind of happening today.
I know exactly the places that he's talking about
That's
because
really
it was my stamping ground.
Yeah.
The underground Italian underground resistance. It really, if you look back, and the reason this book will be so good is people don't realize had there not been a resistance, the Germans would have got a deeper foothold into Italy.
Yeah.
Way down into Italy.
Yeah.
It would have made the fight a lot more. It would have cost a lot more American, Italian lives.
It would.
And I guess if they got into your community, they could have conscripted more of the kids. They could have taken over the mines. They could have. I mean, the minds up here, they would have been able to win over the Italian people at a deeper level, or at least constrict them into.
Well, and I'm thinking probably the war would last longer because
Much longer.
The German would have.
They would have
more
infiltrated
time,
deeper.
They would have time to stay there. This way, they would sabotage a lot.
So if you didn't have the resistance, the Germans could have rooted in much deeper into the Italian culture and resistance. So you would argue that I think you would put out the forth that these men that went and fought in the underground, they allowed for the freedom and liberation, the turnaround of Italy to have a new day. And we're seeing that, we saw that, but because the war gets pushed out and it's a lot easier. Could we agree that Christians today, people like Lucas's age, our kids' age, are these young people coming up today that know Jesus, that love God, that are willing to go to Christian school or homeschool, that are committed to godly values? These are going to be our resistance fighters for today. I think we're going to have to, parents are going to have to start raising their children themselves, putting them in Christian schools. The kids that are young today, that like my son Josh, who's got a young church going, these young Christians, these young leaders, they are going to become the resistance fighters that keep this culture from getting rooted in to getting so rooted in that we lose our society. So I know that Beth has been excluded and she is what's the word? Canceled. We've been canceled. But there's going to be a lot of people, and you said the war fighters of your time, they would be killed if they were caught.
Oh, yeah.
So they risk their lives. Right now, we're just risking being canceled. They're not killing us yet. No. So I would highly suggest, this is my closing remarks on this episode, I think we need to listen to my grandfather. We need to listen to Sandra. We need to listen to, you listen to all of them. Listen to Myron and Evelyn and definitely, gosh, you need to listen to all these. Jerry, we need to listen to all and realize that if we don't dig in now and start being a resistance in the name of Jesus, a godly resistance, we don't have to be hateful. We don't have to hurt people, but we got to start standing our ground. We got to start raising our children right in families and standing against this whole issue today that's causing our world and culture to go to sleep. If we don't do it, we'll be lost.
We can't be complacent. But I said that a long time ago, that this country is going to fall from within, because I realized then, a long time ago, the people were too comfortable, too placid about it.
But it's the resistance fighters that kept that from happening. The resistance kept the vision alive. So we're going to have to believe God for young believers today, families, to stand the ground, to keep that vision of freedom alive. And be able to fight from the inside out, because it's an attack on the inside in.
And promote that belief.
Absolutely. I just think
we can't just close our eyes and say, oh, well, it's not my fight. Yeah, it is our fight.
It is our fight. And every person we've had in your seat on the series has said, we've got to bring back the family. We've got to bring back our faith values. And we're going to have to hold our ground. Eventually, everybody else will figure it out, because this thing leads to an abyss that just destroys humanity. And eventually there'll be a renaissance because people can't stand it anymore. But why should we have to go around that again when we even have people alive like yourself and Don still, Grandpa Don, that can say, I've already lived through this. Why do this again?
Not only that, we have right now, Venezuela is a good example.
It's a great example of that.
It's right there under
the
our
Ukraine
nose.
and Russia is another great example of that.
Exactly. So what more do they want before
Absolutely.
they change their mind? I don't understand that.
I don't either.
We need to wake up. We need to just get in the Word.
We just have to pray for those people, that God would soften their hearts.
I encourage you out there to get in the Bible for just a little bit. Read the Bible. Read what it says. Just start reading through it and ask yourself, do we line up with that? And if we don't, are we fighting what God intended for his people to do? And I think the best thing we can do is repent in our hearts, ask God to forgive us, and then be like Joshua. As for me and my house, we're now going to serve God. And that may mean removing from public education, going to Christian, or maybe even to homeschool if you can't afford it.
It might not be comfortable.
It may not be comfortable. You may have to give up some things.
Exactly.
It's going to include finding a church where the Bible's preached and the Word of God is honored. And it's going to include maybe being a resistance fighter.
Because, it's worth saving your soul. Than go along with these worldly things, because it's become too, just insane.
Sandra, you have been absolutely amazing. And I hope this has been good. It's been great for us. It's been good for you. It's been great. And what was that book again? Let's give that book. Beneath
Scarlet Sky.
Beneath the Scarlet Sky. Go read that, and it'll give you a viewpoint into that.
I have the book if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. We'll get a copy. See if we get a copy. It'd be
Because
great.
it's pretty thick book.
It's a good book.
But one night, like I say, since it was audio, it was very relaxing. I just lay down and I wanted to see the ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I was anxious.
And you just kept reading.
I got to that point, so I listened to from 6 o'clock that night till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow,
Well,
praise God.
because I was comfortable,
And
laying
you're ready
on the
to go.
couch and just listen to it. But
Sandra,
anyway.
thank you so much for coming in and
welcome.
talking to us. I'm Pastor Troy, and we're on the dock at onthedock.org. It's been an incredible series. Go check out the whole series, all of our guests. I hope you'll go enjoy all of them. You'll learn from them. And I think Sandra's actually given us some real wisdom here at the end. Go to info@onthedock.org. That's our email. If you have any questions, go find us on Spotify, iTunes, and Apple, Spotify and Apple iTunes, where we're the 178th in Thailand popular. I'm like David Hasselhoff there. Find us on Google Play, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and SermonNet. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook if they'll let you. Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, and Getter as well. We'd love to hear your interactions. And please subscribe, hit like, make some comments on the show. We'd love to hear about that and just tell us your experience. And we always are looking for partners at my Patreon. Go to Patreon and become a On the Dock partner or sponsor. And if you don't have a church home, OLMC is a great Roman Catholic church. We'd highly recommend Father Mark there. They've got a great church and a great parochial school. If you don't have any other place to go and you want to go to a Protestant church, we're available at Community of Faith Church, where we broadcast On the Dock. Community of Faith Church meets at Sundays at 10 o'clock, Wednesdays at 6:30. We'd always love to have you. Go check it out at coftv.com. We broadcast all of our episodes on Wednesday and Sunday, so you can join us that way. But mostly, I'd love to have you come out. But Sandra says get in church. We need to get back in church, right?
Exactly.
God-fearing church, get in church. And
That's the first step.
The first step. And then, look, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. We hope you listen to all these. We hope we're giving you the tools on the dock to kind of get filled up and get out back in the waters and go help us be a freedom fighter for Jesus Christ. We need to turn this country around. It's going to happen because of you. Again, Mother Beth, thank you. Sandra, thank you. Lucas, thank you.
Great.
It was incredible.
Was my pleasure.
And my pleasure. We'll see you back soon. Check out all our episodes on thedock.org. Pastor Troy, check it out.